The Dark Man, Episode 2, The Dying Embers. Are we born to darkness or born to light? The age-old question. Humans are born with a loathing for the dark. Our eyes cannot stare into the abyss. But darkness isn't evil. To creatures of the night, it is the light that brings horrors. Just as people who do dark deeds fear most the exposure of the light of day. His name is Frank Lumas. To evil, he is known as the Dark Man. He walks in creeping shadows to drag evil into the light, to punish the wicked, to tear the wretched evil from the soul and drag it to where it belongs, to the gray realm, where old gods still live, where aborted terrors lurk in shadows so dark even the most sensitive eyes of the night creatures can't see. Through their own darkness, the wicked's crimes always come to light. It was September 6, 1921, as Frank Lumas struggled with sleep aboard his hulking yacht, the Umbra. He lay in his bunk amidst the calm sea and a storm of dreams. Tossing and turning as if in a maelstrom, he wrestles with memories of another time. If one could see into the depths of the dark man's soul, what demons would we witness? In his powerful mind, something is using his moments of deep dreaming to chip away at the dark man's soul. Frank lay tangled in his sheets, covered in cold sweat, murmuring, slipping away. Flashes of a great city in a fertile mountain valley from a time long ago were racing through his mind. The touch of a woman, skies churning with lightning and smoke. A million voices cry out at once in despair. He seeks something lost. His mind fights to regain something stolen. There is a gunshot, and Frank Lumas nearly flies out of his bed. No! He screams as he flees from the sinking depths of his mind. As he sat on the edge of his bunk, his mind was still awash with nightmares of things to come and things long dead. As he struggled to tell the two apart, his body was shaking. He wiped the cold sweat out of his eyes and focused on the here and now. Groaning, Frank Lumas reached for his cane and stepped out of bed. Looking into his dressing mirror for a long moment, a shadow falls over his face and his features blur in the reflection. Not tonight, demon, he said. As he quietly rallied his mind after the extra-dimensional assault, someone came knocking at his cabin door. It was his companion Rose, calling him back to the realm of man. Wake up, Frank! We're at the spot, she called. Frank rubbed the sleep out of his eyes. I'll be up in a moment, he replied, grabbing his silver-handled sword cane from the bedside. Frank grabbed his clothes from off the floor where he had tossed them in his weariness the night before. As he buttoned up his shirt, he opened his roll-top writing desk. Inside was a featureless black-bound tome of permanent knowledge, an indestructible book created by vile rituals. Its secrets, he had decided, would be lost to time and tide. Tied to a secret blood key, our intrepid adventurers cannot even open the book. Their only option is to hide the book deep beneath the waves. He removed the book from within the cedar desk. Turning it over in his hands, he debates whether the loss of this grimoire will hinder or help his cause. Its creator, the mysterious outsider, no doubt went to great effort to create this insult to life. Yes, he thought to himself, the outsider, no doubt, left this book as some kind of trap. Opening it could lead him to pursue a path of the outsider's choosing. Above deck, there is nothing but inky blackness surrounding the Umbra and stars above. Rose was standing at the stern of the yacht, wiping her hands with an oily rag. From below, she could hear Frank approach, the muffled tapping of his cane on the steps, a familiar sound. As his head poked up out of the companionway, he took one look at Rose and said, You're a mess, Rose. You're simply covered in grease. Are you bleeding? Rose looked at her soiled clothes and chuckled. The oil line had a leak. It caused one of the pistons to seize things up. I sorted it out, though. Frank took in the black seas of the starry sky. How far out of the shipping lanes are we? 40 nautical miles, just like you said, Rose replied. Good. Even on a clear day, no one could see us, Frank said as he stepped beside her. Rose's imposing height and oil-covered blonde curls were a welcome sight after wrestling with unseen forces in his dreams. Rose looked concerned. You look pale. Are you feeling okay? Heavy dreams nearly sunk my head, he replied. Some fights can only be won while sleeping. Rose shook her head at his typically cryptic answer. Speaking of sinking, I thought this busted oil pump would work as a weight. Frank nodded. Yes, that should be perfect. I see you already have a rope. Here, take this grimoire. Rose reached out for the book, but as she touched it, it popped open and snapped down on the tip of her thumb. Ow! Was her startled reaction as the book fell down onto the deck. Damn thing bit me! Just as surprised, Frank asked, Are you all right? But before Rose could answer, his jaw dropped. Wait, Rose, the book lies open, he said. I thought you said it needed blood. You cut your hand while working on the engine, obviously. The key was your blood, Frank said, picking up the now open book. Rose was taken back. My blood? Why? More importantly, how? Frank furrowed his brow. Should have guessed. It's an insult, and it's an outrage. Rose pulled a clean rag out of her pocket and looked at Frank suspiciously. What aren't you telling me? Frank could almost feel the noose around his neck. Let me look inside. Yes, it's just as I feared. The whole damn book is written in blood. Frank, you better start explaining. Now, Rose demanded. Frank shook his head. I'm a fool. I should have known this was a trap that I couldn't leave unsprung. It's not your blood specifically. The key to opening this book is the blood of a stone sister. This is very bad. We have no choice now but to follow the outsider's trail. That does sound like a trap, Rose agreed. Yes, indeed, but we have no choice. You see, he sacrificed at least one stone sister's life, maybe more. Rose's jaw stiffened in anger. What? He bled a stone sister dry to create the ink and the blood key. Young ones at that. Maidens have the energy needed for those two things, Frank said solemnly. Well, that asshole! Who was it? She barked in rage. Why a stone sister? Frank looked up at Rose's searing gaze. I can't tell who it was, but his choice makes sense in a macabre way. He must have discovered that you've been traveling with me. So this is my fault? Stone mothers were right. Everything you touched died, she said as she threw the no longer needed oil pump in rage so hard that it sailed off into the night without so much as a splash, her strength of stone sending the busted pump far away. This isn't your fault, Rose, Frank said, running his hand through his thinning hair and sighing, he said. As much as I'd happily take the blame, it's not mine either. The outsider feeds on suffering. He's trying to hurt us both. Well, it seems like he knows where to stick the fucking knife. There is a glimmer of a bright side to this, Frank said as he rubbed the stubble on his chin. What the fuck could possibly be good about this? Rose said with steam practically coming out of her nose. We now know he fears an alliance of stone sisters and the Dark Man. If he wanted to drive a wedge into the already great divide between our factions, he couldn't have thought of a more blasphemous way to do that. I doubt the Stone Sisters will ever consider you an ally. We share goals, but never has a Dark Man been a boon to the Stone Sisters. Don't you remember that they all want you dead? How could the divide be any wider? Rose scoffed as she put her hands on her hips. Frank cracked half a smile. It's not impossible. You and I are friends, of a sort. Rose cackled. Ha! We tolerate each other. We trust each other, do we not? Rose pinched the bridge of her nose. It doesn't matter what I think. The other Stone Sisters will never trust you. The only reason they didn't banish me for following you was so they could keep track of you, to make sure you don't do anything to threaten their work. I'm sure you've already guessed, but I'm supposed to kill you if you pose too great a threat to the borders between realms. Some Darkmen in the past have given in to the lure of power over the human realm. I won't fall so easily, Frank said, looking up at Rose. Rose looked back at him and cocked her head to the side. And what makes you different? Because they are going to ask. Frank shook his head. There has never been an outsider before. He changes everything for all of us who fight in the war to protect innocence and life. Rose shook her head. Fine. So what does the book say? Frank looked through the pages briefly. That's the odd thing. It appears to be written in hieroglyphics. I know the basics of the language, but I'm not fluent. Despite my lack of knowledge, I can tell you that this is not a common hieratic script. You see the symbols here and here? The symbols for Ra and Amunet are inverted, like a mirror, and the symbol for Anubis is set between the two. It will take a greater scholar than I to translate this. Maybe the Stone Sisters can help. This should be our priority regardless. Rose nodded. Agreed. Frank continued to thumb through the book. This won't be easy, but we need to get in touch with your sisters. The closest temple is in Bucharest, is it not? Rose shook her oily blonde curls. We should go to Istanbul. Bucharest only has a one-way telegraph for sending reports. Frank smiled. A crossroads between east and west on the mighty Bosphorus. Rose smiled in return. The great temple of Lygos is the nexus for all the temples and chapters from Europe and Asia. Then that is where we must go. Hot damn, that's the best news I've had for months. I finally get to go to Istanbul, Rose said with excitement, but then stopped in realization. Oh, she's not going to be happy to see you, Rose said. I'm quite aware. She came all the way to New York to stop you from taking your vows because she thought you'd be tempted to my side of an old feud between dark men and stone wardens, Frank agreed. Now you expect to walk right into her home? Frank shut the book softly. I don't expect, he said, looking at Rose again. I hope. Time and tide continued to turn, and on September 12, 1921, our duo arrived in Istanbul, Turkey. Once called Constantinople, it was the seat of power for the Eastern Roman Empire. Lost to the West in the Crusades, it has always been a metropolis of trade and strategic importance. Up its center flows the mighty Bosphorus, the unstoppable river that separates Asia from Europe. Connecting the Black Sea to the Mediterranean, this vital artery has been a source of both prosperity and conflict. From the Great Bazaar to the towering minarets of Hagia Sophia, it is a world where the past and future collide. As the sun is set on a day of trade and tradition, the Umbra is secured in the port on the Golden Horn, and our heroes travel by small carriage as the muezzins called out for evening prayer from the top of the dizzying spires. Tradespeople plied their wares, causing the smell of bread and spiced meat to fill the air. But the life that warms the city is always threatened by what lurks in the gathering shadows of the night. Cut purses slipped like snakes through the bazaar. A knife in the alleyway robbed someone of even more. Men with hearts of violence teased at the mind of the dark men as they rode on a donkey-drawn carriage. The little beast's hooves echoed off the cobblestones as Rose wiped the sweat off her brow with that white handkerchief. Whew, it's too hot for September, she noted. The dark man's eyes were focused on something unseen by Rose. In a low voice he said, Men with feverish minds lurk in every archway, oozing out for a chance to take someone's light. Rose rolled her eyes. You're like this in every big city. Stop brooding and enjoy the sights and smells. Frank gripped the silver handle of his cane tighter. It's hard to focus sometimes, Rose. I feel wickedness out there in the evening. Dark deeds pull at me. Do you know this ass-powered carriage driver beats his wife? Rose scoffed. It's the 1920s. A lot of people beat their wife. I won't let you ruin this for me. Despite the circumstances, I can still take some small comfort in the fact I've always wanted to come here, to see such architecture and history. Frank sighed. You're right, Rose. It's a monument to life as much as anything else. Times change, but this city has been here in some form since humans first came out of Africa. Since before the Mediterranean swelled through these straits into the Black Sea, and where many old gods were born, and where their dusty idols lie deep in the sands of time. Rose laughed. Was that a joke? Dust? Sand? What? Oh, I suppose it is, Frank said, surprised at himself. Rose smiled. Some things never change. Frank raised an eyebrow. I don't follow. Your jokes are only funny when you tell one by accident, she said. I do my best. I was not blessed with a sense of humor. Only irony, he replied. Yep, some things never change, but some do. I do believe there will be a woman in Turkey's parliament within a decade or so, he said, drawing on his knowledge of a man out of time. Progress, Rose said with a spark of hope. The engine of humanity, replied Frank. That's better, Rose said. You're starting to sound like a real tourist now, Frankie. Please don't call me that, said Frank. How can you not focus on the loss of your fellow sister? Rose rolled her eyes again. I'm not ready to deal with that on an empty stomach. Let's stop for some kebab. Frank begrudgingly agreed. Very well, I could use a hot meal. Rose paused for a second and said, It's not that I don't care about my fellow sisters, but we don't usually see eye to eye. Let me procrastinate for at least an hour or so. You prepare in your way, I'll prepare in mine. With a kebab? Rose smiled. With 4 kebabs. Rose stood on the cobblestone street in a narrow alley with rundown shops. Each shop looked more dilapidated than the next. As Frank stepped out of the carriage, Rose was arguing with the driver. No, here. That should be more than enough, she said as she put the money into the argumentative driver's outstretched hand. The driver responded by shouting in a tongue unknown to Rose and then spitting at her feet in a sentiment that was universal. Rose responded by giving him the finger. Well, fuck you and your donkey, she yelled. The driver turned and gestured to Frank while continuing his tirade. Excuse me? No, I don't think I will, said Frank. Rose knew the tone, but not the words. What the fuck was that, she asked. I speak Arabic, Farsi, and about a dozen other languages, but I didn't quite catch that. He's speaking Arabian Pidgin. It's a trading language composed of about 10 different languages. It changes over the years, but has an Urdu root with grammar more akin to Shalat and vocabulary older than the Roman Empire. So what the hell did he say, Rose said as her face was getting redder. Frank looked at Rose, knowing the translation would no doubt offend. He told me to get my woman under control. Rose put her hands on her hips. Really? Indeed, Frank replied. Rose cracked half a smile. All right, then. Hey, Mr. Donkey Fucker! Frank prepared for Rose's response. Oh, boy, he said. The driver grew even more offended that Frank hadn't kept Rose from talking back to him. The driver continued to ignore Rose while trying to communicate through Frank. Rose snapped her fingers in the driver's face. Oi! I'm talking to you. The driver looked back from Frank to Rose. I have to confess something. Whenever I see a nice ass, I can't help but give it a smack. With an open hand, Rose gave the donkey a slap on his hindquarters loud enough to echo down the lane. The donkey brayed loudly and then took off running, with the driver frantically pulling at the reins to no effect. The driver let loose a string of unintelligible curses as the donkey's shoes sparked off the cobblestones. The driver and donkey went flying around a corner, and the sounds of the carriage quickly faded away. Rose laughed maniacally. Ha 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 ha! Geez, I wasn't born yesterday. I know a fleece when I see one. Frank couldn't help but smile. I don't think he likes foreigners. Rose beamed. Who does these days? Can you believe he wanted a sawbuck just to take us 3 blocks from the bazaar? She let out a very unladylike belch. Oh, that's some spicy kebab. Bouncing over all these cobblestones didn't help with the matter of digestion. Frank looked around at the deserted alleyway. At least he dropped us off in the right place, I think. Rose was now in quite good spirits. Doesn't look like much from the outside, but I hear the courtyard's something to see. It looks like an abandoned storefront with dirty windows and lettering so worn as to be unintelligible. Very clever. Rose produced a large, oddly shaped key from one of her many pockets. While most women ran around with purses, Rose relied on pockets stitched all over her shirt and pants. You of all people know that looks can be deceiving. Good thing I have a paladin's key. We can walk right in without triggering any alarms. We have to assume that the murder of a sister will have already sparked an investigation. There will be no doubt on guard against intruders, and I'd rather not get shot, Rose said as she opened the shop's dusty door. What's the play? This is your territory, Frank said. I've never been here before, but I'm familiar with the layout. We passed through the facade and asked the sister at the gate to let us speak to Mother Azra. She may not like it, but she'll let us in and hear us out, Rose said as she pushed open the outer door. No items or details suggested the purpose of this phony front. There's dust on the shelves, but the floor is well swept along that path. No footprints allude to a passerby. At the back of the store, they open another door. Beyond it, instead of an alleyway, there is a moat full of clear green water. A wide and long wooden bridge leads them to another facade of what appears to be a hidden fortress made out of sandstone. Electric lamps illuminated it in the early night. Rose stopped and rubbed her chin for a second, considering the scene. That's odd. The gate is open, she said. This doesn't feel right. I can't sense any errant thoughts. It's like my radio's busted, Frank said as he cautiously crossed the bridge. Rose ignored Frank's hesitance. Stone sisters enjoy their secrets, she said as she continued. Frank followed slowly. It's more than that. I feel no thoughts at all. It's as if this place is warded. I've been to other temples, but never felt this before. Rose's excitement was palpable. Must be something special about this temple. Look, you can see into the courtyard. They must be expecting us. They never leave the gate unattended. This is as close to a red carpet as we're going to get. Come on! Frank couldn't dampen Rose's enthusiasm, but every alarm in his mind was ringing. No, something's not right here. I feel on edge. Rose took a deep breath and beamed even brighter. I can smell frankincense inside. Come on, follow me. Rose stepped through the arched doorway and into the courtyard. Frank hesitated for a moment, but then followed her. Suddenly, 2 sets of iron bars fell in unison, loudly trapping Frank in the archway. Frank instinctively tried to retreat, but his back hit the bars behind him. It is a trap, he cried out. A single gunshot rang out and a bullet ricocheted beside Rose's boot. Shit, cursed Rose. In a low run, she darted into the empty gatehouse as an army of Stone Sisters swarmed into the courtyard armed with Mauser rifles. They wore simple white robes with royal blue trim on the edges. Their heads were covered with similar cloth. It was the typical uniform of the Order of Stone. If one didn't know any better, you'd think they were nuns, but this was no group of prayer junkies. The gift of stone is renowned for its ability to imbue superhuman strength in its wielders. This can't be good, Rose cried to Frank. Stone Sisters were speaking over one another. It's them. Don't let down your guard. Keep the traitor pinned down. Don't look into his eyes. Frank grabbed the bars and pressed his face up against the tarnished but solid iron. Well, ladies, this isn't the welcome I expected, but do not worry. I mean you no harm, he tried to reassure them. Suddenly a voice with much more authority spoke up. Keep your eyes cast down, sisters. We have the devil in our cage. Do not fire unless I give the order. Rose, stand at attention and be judged. The sisters parted like the Red Sea, and a short woman with streaks of gray in her black hair strode forward. She was about 40 years old and wore the same robes as the other sisters, but with a black sash around her waist. This was Mother Azra, head of the Temple of Lygos, and the very woman that Frank and Rose had worried would not greet them with a warm welcome. Rose put her hands up. Don't shoot, I'm coming out. Jesus, we've come to help. She exited out of the gatehouse slowly until she stood before Mother Azra. Despite towering above the house mother, she was obviously intimidated. She stood at attention like she was standing in front of a drill sergeant. Rose of Stone, you are accused of collusion and kidnapping. Speak your truth, she demanded. I am the Stone Rose. I stand at the gates. I do not step aside. Nothing fools my eyes, Rose said proudly. Mother Azra put her hands behind her back and began to circle Rose. 2 Stone Sisters have disappeared, she said. One on the 1st of August and another an hour ago. It cannot be a coincidence that the loss of a sister heralds the return of the Dark Man. You could tell that Mother Azra was furious. Rose furrowed her brow. Neither Frank nor I know about a second disappearance. We've come because we learned of another Stone Sister's death. Mother Azra continued her interrogation. And how do you know of this? We were only made aware after investigating another crime in Roma country, Rose said, starting to feel frustrated by Mother Azra's implications. Mother Azra stopped in front of Rose again and squinted up at her. I see defiance in your eyes, Rose. Maybe he has turned you. Why isn't the Dark Man dead? Why do you still allow him to go unchallenged? Do not look at me as if you were the one who has been wronged. Rose gritted her teeth. My mission was to investigate and only kill Frank if he was a danger to the Stone Sisters. He has not moved to hurt our sisterhood once. Mother Azra waved the answer away with her hand. Do you deny that he moves to the other side? This alone makes him dangerous. Rose stood her ground. He is no danger to us, at least not directly. So you admit he is dangerous, Mother Azra said, pointing her finger at Frank. So are we, Rose replied. We only seek to protect Rose, Azra said with narrowed eyes. Rose still wasn't backing down. We protect the world from what we barely understand. I have learned more about the Grey Realm in 1 year than the Sisterhood has learned in centuries. Some things must remain unknown for everybody's safety. Not at the expense of understanding what we fight, Rose retorted. Mother Azra moved to Rose's side and whispered, "If you were any other sister, I would have ordered for both of you to be killed." Rose sighed and her expression softened. "I am grateful for your wisdom, Mother." Mother Azra glanced at Frank without making eye contact. "And what would you have me do with him? I cannot simply let him in our home, not with the things we guard." Frank casually leaned against his cage. "Oh, I'm quite happy to stay here if it makes you feel better." "I didn't ask you, snake," Mother Azra said with audible disgust in her voice. Frank sighed. "Fine, we'll try it your way. Keep in mind, however, I am not the one holding a gun to your head." Mother Azra spoke again and surprisingly made eye contact with Frank. "I would speak with my pupil, Dark Man, alone." Frank shrugged. "As you wish, Mother. I'll just contemplate this interesting masonry here. These symbols are quite fascinating," Frank said as he traced one of the many glyphs etched into the stone of the archway with his finger. Mother Azra snapped her finger and said with authority, "Ponder them on your knees. Kazahama Ratush! May the stone seal be upon you." There was a deep buzzing and the air around Frank became distorted. The dark man dropped to his knees as if someone had increased the gravity in the archway tenfold. Frank groaned loudly and clenched his teeth as even his voice became distorted. He gripped his cane and tried to rise up to one knee, but the force kept him on all fours. "What the hell? What have you done to him?" Rose cried out defensively. Mother Azra replied, "I have bound him. He cannot use his magic while in that cell. See how he drops to his knees? The power of the binding stone sits on his shoulders. If I wish to, I can crush him." Rose wasn't happy. "You're hurting him." Mother Azra didn't care. "He will endure. Come with me. We must speak." Rose looked at Frank once more before following Mother Azra. "Hang in there, Frank. I'll be back as soon as I can," she called out. Frank answered, his words distorted and strained. "Sure. Take your time." Mother Azra walked at a quick clip for her height, and Rose found herself trying to keep up as she spoke. "Are you sure he's going to be all right, Mother?" Rose asked. "You should worry more about yourself, little one," Azra said to her former student. "Sisters, leave 10 to guard the Dark Man. The rest of you, back to your posts," she commanded. Rose needed to make Mother Azra understand. "There are things you don't know, things that need explaining." Mother Azra was resolute. "Oh, I understand. You've been away too long. The Dark Man brings death. That is the one fact I think you have forgotten." "I'll have you know that I consider killing him quite often. I've seen him bring justice to monsters and innocents," Rose pleaded. "But he does not murder blindly. Every death has its reason. He will kill without hesitation in self-defense or the defense of others. But most people die during our investigations because they've done terrible things, and the others, well, he only eases their passing. He can be kind and grant mercy to a tortured soul, or he can drag them to an eternal prison. The work we've been doing is important." Mother Azra stopped and turned to Rose. "To whom is it important? We stand at the gate. He passes through it." "That's what you don't understand. He doesn't use any gates. He doesn't punch holes in reality. It seems like he just effortlessly slips between realms. We are taught that the Dark Man is evil. He's not an evil man. He's more like a police officer catching criminals, although he does seem to enjoy his work a little too much at times. But other times, I'm not sure, but he carries a heavy burden," Rose stated. "And why is he here now if not to kidnap another Stone Sister? The disappearances can't be a coincidence." "They are not a coincidence, but it wasn't us," said Rose. Mother Azra shook her head. "Then who else could have done this?" Rose replied, "I know who's behind all of this. Frank calls him the Outsider. I don't know much, but I know he's a cold-blooded killer. The things he does makes Frank look like a saint. Frank says he feeds on suffering. And I know he's killed at least one Stone Sister. We found a book he created. The ink is in her goddamn blood." Mother Azra continued the conversation unfazed. There has always been the Dark Man. He has never been a friend to our order. In the old days, he hunted us close to extinction. That's another thing we've gotten wrong. There isn't one Dark Man. Frank is just one man in a line of men, and probably women too. He isn't to be held accountable for what the ones who came before him did. From what I can understand, he's only been doing this job for a few decades. You are feuding with dead men. Rose looked at Azra with a deep desire to help her understand. Mother Azra sighed. Say I was to believe you. Part of your job was to gather intelligence. I don't doubt your courage or convictions, but I don't trust your familiarity with this, by your account, new Dark Man. Rose looked away sheepishly. Well, we are sort of friends. Kind of. Mother Azra raised an eyebrow. Rose rolled her eyes. Don't look at me like I'm stupid. We have seen some shit together. He's always had my back. After some time, I realized we were on the same side. Mother Azra lowered her voice, dropping the accusatory tone. And you say this outsider is to blame for Sister Agatha's disappearance today? Rose nodded. That would be who my money's on. Mother Azra turned and began walking again. Tell me more about this outsider. Rose followed. You should really ask Frank. All this fighting is just what that outsider asshole wants. He thinks he's trying to make sure the Stone Sisters and the Darkmen stay enemies. I don't know the whole story. Frank can be tight-lipped when he wants to be, but I know the outsider wants to open a permanent portal to what we call the other side. Frank calls it the Grey Realm. He says it's a prison for dangerous souls and beings, things that can't die or are too dangerous to be allowed to reincarnate. We don't know why or how, but the outsider wants to throw open the gates and let all the prisoners out. Mother Azra kept an even tone. They both exploit the other side. We keep the gates closed tonight just as we always have. Mother Azra, I don't think Frank even likes the Grey Realm. Sometimes I don't know if he even likes himself. But I do know he doesn't kill for his own selfish needs. He once told me that he didn't volunteer for this job, but he does it anyway. Day after day, night after night, he walks into the most vile and dark situations in order to protect. I'm not sure why he keeps doing it. Maybe part of him is as dark as the name suggests. Part of him enjoys it and part of him hates it. But it takes a toll. And right now, he's suffering just to prove that he means us no harm. Mother Azra looked up into Rose's eyes. Why would he suffer for our safety? He's been jumpy all day, and he's been getting jumpier the closer we came to the temple. Right before we came in, it was like he knew it was a trap. I didn't listen. I'm pretty sure he walked into your trap on purpose. As a sign of good faith, I think. Mother Azra sighed in frustration again. You respect the Dark Man, I can tell as much. I can also see that your mind is still your own. Very well, I will admit that I do not think that you had anything to do with your sister's kidnappings, but I am not ready to trust the Dark Man yet. Mother Azra, can you at least tell me about these kidnappings? Rose asked. Azra paused and said, I'm sorry, Rose. The first sister was Rachel Jennings from the New York Temple. Rose stopped in her tracks. Whoa, wait, that can't be right. Why her? She's only a librarian's page, a quiet bookworm. This has to be a mistake. The Hudson Library is like a labyrinth that only she knows. There's no way the outsider just walked into that place and took her. Her stone gift may be weak, but her knowledge is vast. You're not thinking. She's a non-combatant. Not to mention she has almost an encyclopedic knowledge of the biggest library we have, said Mother Azra. This has to be the reason she was targeted. Rose started turning these facts over in her mind. Wait, so why did the outsider kill her? Wouldn't she be more valuable alive? What makes you think she's dead? Mother Azra said. Frank, the Dark Man said that a stone sister was killed to make the book that we found in Roma. She was not just used as an ink font, she was a blood sacrifice. As soon as Agatha disappeared today, I sent word to all the major temples, said Mother Azra. They sent word to all the chapter houses. By telephone, telegraph, or the post. All sisters will be accounted for. And in time, we will determine who is to blame. And then we can make the culprit long for death. I stand as witness to the innocence of the Dark Man in this matter. I will not stand aside. Rose straightened to attention again to make her point. You stand against your sisters? Rose shook her head. I stand for Sister Rachel. If you're wrong, you will share the Dark Man's fate, Mother Ezra warned. Rose shrugged. There's a good chance of that happening anyway. Eventually, at least. Very well, I will call the notary. I will personally interrogate this Dark Man, Mother Ezra said begrudgingly. Suddenly there was a massive explosion somewhere deep below. It shook the whole temple, and dust fell from all the stones around them. As the two steadied themselves, fire alarm bells began ringing throughout the temple. Woof! What the hell was that? Shouted Rose above the ringing alarms. Ugh! Nearly knocked me right on my ass. Was that an earthquake? Mother Ezra jumped to a conclusion. The Dark Man! What has he done? No, it came from deeper in the temple. That's not Frank, Rose cried out. A flood of sisters came running down the great hallway. Mother Ezra shouted with authority. Sisters, do not run! Prudence, come here. Yes, Stone Mother, said a young sister with red hair. Mother Ezra put her hands on Sister Prudence's shoulders and looked around at the rest of the girls. Gather together these frightened geese and remind them who they are. Sister Prudence saluted. Yes, Mom. Sisters, stop, she called out to those who were still fleeing. She motioned to some of the stone sisters running away from the direction of the explosion. All of you, come here, shouted Sister Prudence. Yes, Acolyte Prudence, they said. All the sisters in the hallway gathered around. They were all armed with Mauser rifles. Clutching them to their chests, you could tell that none of them had ever seen true battle. Who are we? Asked Sister Prudence. The other women replied in unison. Stone Sisters. What do we do? Prudence yelled. The other sisters replied. We stand at the gates. Mother Ezra shouted. Then why do you step aside? One of the other sisters spoke up. There's a fire near the sacred sanctum. Maybe a gas line blew? Mother Ezra bit her thumb in thought. A fire? No. Too many coincidences. Well, are those the latest Paris fashions you hold in your hands, or are those rifles? The sisters looked around in confusion. Don't bother to answer. Come with me. We will gather more sisters on the way. Someone is violating our home. They seek the sanctum. We will not stand aside and let them. Rose, go wait by the gates and guard the Dark Man. Like hell I will, Rose said, pulling her Colt 1911 from its holster. Frank can handle himself. If that's the asshole who killed our sisters, I'm going to put a 45 between his eyes. And if you're wrong, if the Dark Man is at our most sacred vault, asked Mother Ezra, then he's a dead man, Rose replied. Finally something we can agree on, said Mother Ezra. Very well, you four come with us. Prudence, gather all those who guard the Dark Man and meet us at the Forgotten Gate. And do something about that damn alarm. Sister Prudence saluted and said, Yes, Mom. The sisters gathered around Mother Ezra instantly. They were galvanized against their fear by her leadership. With a firm hand, she led them down the hall. She barked others at the other sisters in disarray. Their ranks began to grow as they headed down the stairs to the bowels of the temple. As they descended the sandstone stairs, they expected smoke to be billowing below. Instead, there was just heat, the roar of fire growing audible. Damn, it's getting hot, Rose observed as she squinted in the heat. There's no smoke, Mother Ezra said. What exactly is burning? I smell... Rose knew that smell, but hesitated to name it completely. Smells like meat cooking, she said ominously. By the stone! The sisters below! Hurry! Rallied Mother Ezra. They all gathered behind a wooden double door large enough for a horse to pass through. Mother Ezra looked at her troops and could see that while their eyes may be filled with fear, they were steeling themselves to fight anyway. Mother Ezra put her hand on the door. Okay, sisters, on the count of... She was interrupted by the scream of a sister in immense pain. Now, she cried, go, go, go! She threw open the wooden doors and ran into the vast room with Rose and the well-armed sisters behind her. The room was vast, containing a massive set of iron doors covered in sigils and runes. In front of the door stood a giant, a swirling mass of fire in human form. It stood almost as tall as the iron doors and was holding a burning figure in its swirling hand. This caused even Rose to pause in disbelief. Dear Lord, she exclaimed. The other sisters were too mesmerized to even raise their rifles. The creature was standing under a charred hole in the vaulted ceiling. All around him were the burned bodies of at least 10 stone sisters. They were staring with gaping mouths and silent screams. The creature stared down in disgust at the hastily assembled assault team. Its heat made everyone's eyes water as it spoke. "Open door," it growled in a deep, booming voice. "My God, she looks like she's still alive!" Rose exclaimed as the figure in its burning hand turned its head and began to flail. Mother Azra called out to the creature, "Put her down, you demon, and you may live to see another day!" The face of Fire's eyes were black burning coals as it rumbled in heightened anger. "Open door!" "Ready, sisters! Fire on my mark!" shouted Mother Azra. The sisters snapped out of their disbelief and aimed their rifles at the creature. The creature growled and seemed to take a different stance, facing the girls in front of him. "Fire!" came the order from Mother Azra. Rose was first to pull the trigger, her 1911 barking to life. The other sisters began to fire their 7mm rounds from their Mausers, cycling the bolt after each pull of the trigger like they had been trained. The bullets whizzed through the creature, hitting the far wall behind it. "Die!" roared the beast even louder, its fire burning brighter as it threw the flaming body from its grasp at the other sisters. Rose and Mother Azra ran in either direction to avoid the impact, but several of the sisters were frozen by fear, and the flaming body impacted them as they screamed in terror. One by one, each sister trying to battle the beast burst into flames, which spun and billowed as it lashed out with its arms of fire. The Stone Sisters all ignited in a horrifying display of indifferent destruction. "My sisters!" cried out Mother Azra. "Help! The fire! Make it stop!" they were calling out before the flames surged into their lungs, silencing even their screams. At this, even Mother Azra stood, frozen in disbelief at the rampaging horror before her. Only Rose stayed in the moment and in the fight. "Retreat, Mother Azra! Get behind me!" she yelled as she dropped the empty magazine out of her pistol and whipped a replacement from her belt, slamming it home in the grip. The monster roared again with singular purpose. "Gore!" it bellowed. "Go to hell!" Rose shouted as she sent 7 shots directly through the creature's head. The beast sent a fireball at Rose, and she dove deftly out of its path. Her eyes stung, and it was hard to breathe in this oven of an antechamber. "God damn it, my shots go right through it!" she cursed. Mother Azra stood chest-fallen. "My sisters! They're dead!" she cried in dismay. "Deceivers!" the beast roared as a mass of fire began swirling in front of it, pointed right at Mother Azra. Suddenly the wall started to shake, with mortar dust falling from the ceiling. Great booming footsteps caused the fire creature to stop a moment and look around. The booming grew louder and faster. Rose felt the battle change all around her. "Shitcakes, what now?" A massive black shape fell out of the hole in the ceiling left by the fiery creature. It rose up and took a form resembling a man, almost as tall as the fire creature. Its dark brown form undulated like it was made of liquid. 2 blue glowing eyes appeared in its head. It looked into the fire, and the fire turned to look back at it. They both bellowed at each other. Rose immediately ran to Mother Azra's side and grabbed her hand. "Oh, hell, I think they're gonna fight. Mother, let's go!" she shouted over the roars. "Impossible," Mother Azra said. "Welcome to my world. Now run!" The beasts began to clash, the immaterial fire fighting the strange shifting humanoid bulk. The dark brown creature's strikes actually landed against the gaseous body it faced. They traded blows briefly, but the brown creature quickly gained the upper hand, smashing the fire beast to the ground with a force so massive that the stone floor cracked. "Look, he's winning," Rose cried out triumphantly as she cheered on the second creature. "That's it, finish him!" The inferno roared in dismay and released its humanoid form to retreat as a swirling mass of gas. "The infernal is trying to flee through the hole in the ceiling," Mother Azra said to Rose. Rose smiled. "I don't think the blobby thing is going to let him. See, it still has him in his grasp." The wooden supporting rafters that held the stone ceiling up were now in flames as well. Rose and Mother Azra backed up into the stairwell cautiously. It was then the fire beast began to chant something in a strange language. As it ended its chant, it detonated. The shockwave shook the world as the ceiling began to shatter and fall. The 2 remaining stone warriors had leapt to the relative safety of the stone-hauled stairwell and were saved from the deadly shockwave. The strange, gelatinous creature was not so lucky. With a dismayed roar, it fell to the floor with a mighty crash as all the fire in the room was sucked out and upwards away, leaving behind only smoldering embers and chunks of sandstone. The explosion had sent reddish-brown steaming pieces of the falling creature all over the room. Rose hesitantly re-entered the room, looking around at the mess left behind. Oh, gross. What is this stuff? I think the blob exploded. Shit, the fire thing got away. Ew, what the hell? Is this blood? Hell. The blood creature moaned mournfully on the floor. Rose looked upon it, and it looked up at her with its glowing blue eyes. Poor thing, I think it's still alive. Mother Azra picked up an unburned rifle from the floor and racked the bolt. We trade one filthy beast for another, she said. The dark man's voice echoed around the room. Is that any way to thank that fearless warrior for saving you? Rose called out. Frankie, that you? I simply must insist you stop calling me that, the dark man said as he seemed to appear beside them out of thin air. Mother Azra pointed the rifle at him. No! How are you here? Sister, seize him! I'm afraid you and Rose are all that survived the melee, Frank said. At least a few hundred sisters above us are still alive. A small comfort, but a comfort nonetheless. Mother Azra was livid. Comfort? You call this a comfort? This is a massacre. I hold you accountable. The dark man looked at Azra and flicked his hand. The rifle flew out of her grasp and across the room. Rose, she shouted, kill this man. What? Asked Rose in confusion. Do it now, Paladin, Mother Azra ordered. The dark man must be stopped before he breaches the sanctum. Or do you not care that he slaughtered your sisters? The dark man continued to look at Azra in anger. It was not I who summoned that demon. Mother Azra, stand down. Do not tempt my rage. If it weren't for your little distraction in the courtyard, I could have saved more sisters. The blood creature moaned in sadness and pain. I need to see to the blood golem, the dark man said. Or do you want to shoot him as well? A fine bit of gratitude for one who gave his life. Rose looked at the creature in sympathy. Golem? I'll explain everything soon, but first... Frank walked towards the blood golem, his cane tapping on the bare stone as he approached. Sorry, my friend, he said. His cane fell to the floor as he lowered himself to look at the blood golem in its fading blue eyes. The blood golem made a low sound like weeping. Yes, I can see. Your core is damaged. There's nothing I can do, Frank said, resting his hand on the quivering mass that was its forehead. The blood golem spoke, and Rose could recognize its similarity to Hebrew, for the dialect was indecipherable. You were a hero today. You've earned your rest. Your duty has been fulfilled, and so is your contract. You're finally free, Frank said, comforting the golem. Rose spoke hesitantly. Frank? What is he? Frank sniffled and sighed. Come over here, Rose. Don't worry, he won't harm you. He seems sad, Rose spoke softly. As I said, he's dying. Rose looked at Frank. I've never seen you cry before. Frank let the tears run down his cheeks. Oh, wise sentinel, this is the girl you saved today. The blood golem made a sound of acknowledgement. Thank you, she said, as she rested her hand on what looked like his arm. It was cold to the touch, but not wet. Even though it looked like liquid, it left no stain on her hand. Frank continued to comfort him. Yes, I'll tell your brothers. It's safe to let go. I'm sure your master misses you. Time to go home. The blood golem made a bubbling, muddy noise for a few moments and then let out a deep, long sigh. Goodbye, Gual, Frank said as the blue glow of its eyes faded to black. Mother Azra finally spoke. What was that? Why did it help us? Frank sniffled and wiped his eyes. He was a blood golem, an ancient creature. A few still stand guard over forgotten places. I called him and his brother in to help. He was the one who volunteered, the oldest and wisest of the blood sentinels, and now he's gone. He thanked me for letting him die in battle. He was over 3,000 years old, And now the world is a little smaller without him, and we are poorer for the lack of his presence. What did you say his name was? Mother Azra asked. Goal, son of Isheb, guardian of the abyss and the general of the 12 tribes of Ella. May the stones guide his soul to the realm of light, as Azra said solemnly. Amen, said Rose as she too wept. I think, Dark Man, that it is well past time we spoke, said Mother Azra. We can go to my study behind the tabernacle after the sisters and I see to the dead. Have Rose take you there immediately. Frank replied, Very well. Give me a moment. I can't leave you at the doors of the sanctum while it is unguarded, she said, regaining her commanding tone. The dark man looked at her after regaining his indignation. I care not about your monolithic shrine to ignorance. Leave me be, for I just lost every bit as much as you. He paused and sighed. We both should try to be civil at least, for their sakes, and we have much to discuss. But first, the dark man snapped his fingers and stood to face the massive iron doors. The sounds of many mechanical devices and locks came from the sanctum doors. What are you doing? How are you opening it? Mother Azra asked in disbelief. The giant iron doors slowly opened. The sound of metal grinding against stones was cacophonous. Mother Azra exclaimed, Stop! I knew you wanted to desecrate the shrine. Relax, the dark man said casually. I won't step 1 foot inside. This lock was invented by Edward the Unworthy, but you may have read the tales of Thomas of Stone. They were one and the same. I simply want to gaze upon his masterpiece. Do you mean Thomas the heretic? He was executed for trying to destroy the very sanctum he built, Mother Azra said as she also gazed inside. The grinding of the iron door stopped. Inside the chamber, 2 guards stood with Mauser rifles pointed at the dark man. Behind them was an immense room, as deep as it was tall. The center was well illuminated, as was its summit. A massive sandstone block 5 stories tall sat like a mountain held in the massive chapel. Disappearing below, where torches failed to illuminate the gloom, at its bottom there was a wooden staircase that encircled it from bottom to top. It twisted around the mighty stone as catwalks with armored steel panels to protect the many sisters standing guard around it. Illuminating. Quite the wonder, Frank said. Rose stood in wonder herself. Hot damn, I've always wanted to see this. It's more amazing than I imagined. There, you've had your little peek behind the curtain. Now it is time to leave, said Mother Azra, trying to regain control of the situation. Frank held up a finger. 1 moment more. I see cuneiform written into the stone. Mother Azra silently pulled a blade from behind her back. Speak 1 word of that incantation and I will kill you myself. Frank scoffed. Maybe you know more about this sanctum than you'd like to admit, Stone Mother. But you are quite right about this sanctum. It's more dangerous than you know. The dark man snapped his fingers again, and the door swung closed, followed by the sounds of arcane locking mechanisms fastening closed. Mother Azra watched in disbelief. What forbidden magic do you use to cast open the doors of Lygos? Frank said, Stone Mother, there is no such thing as magic, but no lock or door can keep me from going where I please. Consider this a demonstration. I can bring all these stones you worship crashing down on your heads, if I so choose. However, I have no interest in killing innocents. Mother Azra sheathed her small blade. All these girls, burned at your feet. I will tell you what I see, Dark Man. I see a man more interested in stones than lives. Time and tide come for us all, Frank said in a darker tone. Besides, I'm not the one with stone in my name. Mother Azra relented a bit. Come, I'll let the sisters know it's safe. They will want to mourn and care for the dead. Come to my study, and I will promise I'll hear you out before I decide whether I should have you burned alive like the daughters I've lost. Now, we let the daughters grieve. And when will you grieve, Stone Mother? The dark man asked. When the man responsible for this burns alive, she replied. Our 3 unlikely survivors sat in a small, modest, wooden-floored study. On the walls there were bookcases lined with dusty tomes, and in the center a great mahogany desk. Many strange things sat in jars on one bookcase devoid of literature. Mother Azra sat with squinted, suspicious eyes locked on Frank Lumas. Frank reclined in a wingback chair, hands tented, and looking at the stone mother with a wry smile on his face. Rose paced back and forth, her brow furrowed. It was Rose that broke the silence. Fine, you two want to have a staring contest? That's just fine. So I'll go first. What the fuck, guys? I know my lord, that was a real-life ifrit. They're not supposed to be real. They used to be quite real. Before Salahuddin and the Stone Brothers either imprisoned or killed them all, Frank replied. Mother Azra scoffed. Stone Brothers? Their kind turned from the path and were eliminated. They consorted with the Dark Man and he wiped them out in return. Not quite. Edward the Unworthy may have swung the blade, but it was the Stone Brothers who had knowledge of the Lygos stone's construction that asked for death. Some secrets yearn for death. Secrets have a will of their own. Some wish to remain hidden for all time. Others, well, want to be known. The Stone of Lygos wants to release its secrets. We would be foolish to let any other fact distract us from this. Edward knew what he had built. The brothers that helped him all committed suicide. Mother Azra's gaze was unyielding. You will tell me what you know of this outsider, as well as all you know about the Lygos stone, the Ifrit, and what foolishness drew you into my house. I'd lead off with this, Frank, Rose said as she removed the grimoire from the back of her shirt and dropped it on the desk. Indeed, said Frank. Mother Azra pulled a set of reading glasses from her robes. What is this? A grimoire of permanent knowledge, Frank said. Mother Azra glanced back at Frank. Ha! Lies! All such books were destroyed by the heretic. You literally can't destroy a book like that, he said. It's more likely the books you refer to were spirited away to somewhere else. Edward the Unworthy was cast from the Grey Realm and stripped of all his authority. There is no worse punishment for a dark man. These sanctions drove him mad. For a dark man stripped of his powers, only a painful death awaits. Such deaths follow banishment quickly, but not for Edward. He tried to return to his remaining brothers, hoping they would help. Instead, they chained him in your deepest oubliette. Or so the story goes. Mother Azra turned the book over in her hands. The Stone Brothers are all dead, torn out of this world by root and stem. Not a single one survived. It was centuries before the Order of Stone returned to this temple. The Turkish government couldn't continue guarding a worthless stone temple with the Great War at their doorsteps. We were more than happy to take up our brother's mantle and guard the Stone of Lygos. When we arrived, we found the heretic below while taking stock of our holdings. It is a mystery why he still lived. It is indeed a miracle, just as his birth was a miracle. I can count on one hand all the wielders of more than one of the four great gifts. It's rare enough to have one gift. It is also a tragedy. If a dark man loses his powers, it is only a matter of time before the Grey Realm rescinds its blessings. Usually the result is a slow death, but a death nonetheless. Even in an earthly prison, the Grey Realm will still take its toll. His sentence for his crimes must have been worse than I thought. Imagine centuries in darkness with nothing but the ghosts of your fallen foes to keep you company. It staggers the mind. And yet you burned him? It strains belief. We had no idea who he was. He seemed pleasant at first, but when we asked him his name, he began to laugh and said he had no name. The only reason we knew his name is that it was etched into the stone of his prison 1,000 times. The sisters kept an eyewitness report of the whole incident. We did not know who this man was. When he said he was the last surviving stone brother, the sisters rejoiced. He promised to teach us lost techniques in magic, but instead he took the first opportunity he had and killed the guards to the Stone of Lygos. He set a huge fire in the sanctum. He had taken all the swine and beef in our lauders and threw them into the fire. He was absolutely mad, said Mother Azra. Sounds like he knew what he was doing, said Frank. The fat from burning animals can raise the temperature of a fire until it melts or cracks stone. He came from a time where sapping beneath stone walls was a common way to end a siege. Still, with centuries lived in total darkness, with no reprieve of death from his hunger and thirst, he must have gone mad long before our grandfathers' grandfathers were even born. He was stopped. The fire did not break the great stone. Instead, he was burned at the stake. I can't decide whether that was a blessing or a tragedy. Maybe a little of both. Would have liked to have met such a man, Frank said, lifting an eyebrow. There sure is a lot of fire throughout the Lygos stone's history, said Rose. There's a lot of fire in our history all of a sudden, Frank said. In the centuries of Turkish occupation, many of our histories and records were destroyed or crumbled into dust. I have read every scrap of paper and spent more time than anyone in this great temple. I have found nothing about how our monastic brothers were lost to us. I know. Once the Christians were driven from these lands, Salah-ad-Din brought his army to bear on your stone brothers, Frank said. Why the hell would he do that? Rose asked. Frank replied, I have my suspicions, but I truly do not know the answer. Not all knowledge is permanent. This book is different. Go on, try to even tear out a single page, Rose said. Mother Azra turned her attention back to the book. Fine, let's take a look at this. Well, it seems to be glued shut. Blood key? My current hypothesis is its key to Stone Sister blood, Frank replied. But so far, my sample size is only 1. Rose's blood opened it the first time, but I am almost sure that any Stone Sister will do. Interesting, said Mother Azra. Mother Azra pulled a sharp penknife from her drawer and pricked her finger. She then extended her wizened digit to let a single drop of blood fall. As it fell, the book flew open and caught the drop as it fell. Careful, that thing is bitey, Rose said. Ah, but now it opens, she said with wonder. Mother Azra attempted to rip a page, but it would not tear. She slashed it with the penknife, to no effect. You appear to be telling the truth, she said, still examining the pages. This paper can't even be folded, let alone ripped. Have you tried fire? Frank said it was pointless to try, said Rose. Before I accidentally opened it, I tried everything I could think of. First thing was a Weldon torch. Then I hung it from a rope on the main mast of the Umbra and hit it with every gun I had. I was joking with Frank that it would make a good bulletproof vest. Umbra? Asked Azra. My boat, replied Rose. You mean my boat, Frank said, looking over his shoulder at Rose. Rose put her hands on her hips. Can you repair a Rudolph diesel prototype 10-cylinder engine? You had that old man design an engine that could cross the Pacific, but then forgot to ask him to make it reliable. Hell, even he knew. Hence the twin-engine design and the generous workshops that take up the majority of the interior space. Mother Azra continued her appraisal. This book is written in gibberish. I've never seen a hieratic script like this. Frank went back to observing Mother Azra over tented hands. Aside from trying to help you find a missing sister, we were hoping you might know a scholar who could help. I might know a man in Alexandria, but first you must earn my trust. Mother Azra closed the book. Tell me about your outsider. Frank replied, He's a failed dark man. There was a long pause as they stared at each other, but Rose's jaw dropped. What the hell, Frank? That's more than you've said about him since the day we met, Rose said, aghast. I'm trying to earn trust, if you don't mind, Frank said in an even tone. And what about my trust, Rose said. I was playing things close to the vest until I knew you weren't going to try to assassinate me. Well, Rose began to argue, but stopped, knowing full well how many times she was inches from attempting such an action. Fuck. Fine, might as well let more cats out of the bag while you're at it. It's simple. We trained together as brothers. The dark-minded, that's what they could call those who might bear the dark gift. No one knows why dark-minded individuals appear in pairs, but they do. Wherever there is one, you will soon find another. In the case of those who actually awaken the gift within the Golden City, one will go on to be the Dark Man, and the other will take a vow of silence about his time in the Golden City and return to the realm of man. His dark gift is sealed away, and he accepts exile from the shining summits. Wow, Rose said with a frustrated half-smile. So much to unpack there. Frank continued. Anyway, the outsider was chosen to be the Dark Man. I was disappointed, but I didn't want to let my teacher down. The new Dark Man must enter the Grey Realm before he can assume the mantle. At the bottom of the Mines of Madness existed a natural fault line between this world and the Grey Realm. When the outsider entered this rift, he was only there for a few minutes. He was spit back out so hard he broke 3 ribs in his arm. It is rare, but it has happened before. Needless to say, the moment that this happened, his fate was sealed. He would never be the Dark Man. I prepared myself for the Grey Ritual just as he did. On the night before my ceremony, something went wrong. Everything happened so fast. Not even I am sure how he did it. He must have wanted to act before the silent monks took away his gift. But that's just my opinion. The truth is that a fire like none imaginable erupted deep in the mines of madness. Rose stopped Frank. Hold up. Every time I hear the name Golden City, you get all misty-eyed like it was some type of utopia. Well, what perfect society has somewhere called the mines of fucking madness? I never said it was a utopia, replied Frank, only that it housed immeasurable knowledge and its beauty was breathtaking. But it was flawed and imperfect, just like any society that humans have created. The night the fires below the city were so hot the whole ground heaved and shook as it collapsed into the burning mines of madness. My guess is somehow he managed to ignite all the golden glass in the mines. The fire was so hot no one survived but a scant handful. One was the master of prophecy. He himself was hundreds of years old, and no one could remember how long he'd been in the city. As we sat shivering in a cave outside our blasted valley, he came to talk to me. Now, the master of prophecy hasn't made a prediction longer than anyone could remember. Hell, the man never talked. Whenever people tried to talk to him, he would just point a knobbly old finger at the scrolls and books where he had written down all his prophecies. That night, however, he woke me from a shallow sleep and whispered his final prophecy to me. He said that the Golden City was always going to fall. He had known for a long time. It was he that first told me of the outsider prophecy, how it was destined to happen, and there was nothing he could have done to prevent the fall of that beautiful city. The outsider survived the disaster and must be stopped somehow, someday, or all the worlds would burn. Mother Azra tapped her finger on the book's cover. A fine piece of fiction. So tell me why you refuse to tell us the outsider's name. Are you afraid of it? Frank chuckled. No, I fear not his name. Pray that you never meet him. But if you do, he'll be happy to tell you his name. Calling him the outsider is, I guess you could say, like an insult or a slur. I'm sure he hates it, although I haven't seen him since he was being treated by the Stone Sisters University Hospital. Mother Azra straightened in her chair. Wait, what was that you said? The First Order of Stone was founded in the Golden City. Mother Azra stood up and turned to look out of her study window. She stared silently. Rose grabbed the sides of her head. I just have so many questions. They will have to wait, Rose. But for now, you have regained my trust, she said with her back turned. However, Dark Man, I still do not trust you. But I will help you in any capacity I can, so that we can avenge my fallen daughters and bring this outsider to justice. Rose nodded. Okay, what about the Ifrit? How do we kill it? We don't. We kill its hosts, said Frank. Wait, Ifrit are beings of living fire. They don't need a host. At least, I've never read about one needing one. This one is old and weak. It is latched onto a human and therefore appears much stronger than it should. Its power is like that of some of the most powerful elemental creatures of legend. That explosion it made, the one that killed Gwaul, it should have been suicide, but yet it lived. I can still feel its mind somewhere in this city. Rose punched her fist into her open palm. Great! We can track him down easy peasy. Frank is like a bloodhound. Once he has your scent, you're done for. Mother Azra kept staring out the window. Then why does he hesitate? Frank kept staring at Azra's back. I can't seem to find him. He's been weakened by time and solitude. His violence and power are immense, but the self-detonation is suicide. It sleeps now to regain its strength. Dormancy is common for these entities. They can hibernate for centuries. If that were the case, he'd be invisible to anyone, no matter their gifts. They are immortal, but not invincible. Salahaddin knew this. That is why he and the Stone Brothers tried to trap them, in order to put them into a permanent hibernation. This is different. It merely sleeps. That fact, and surviving a self-detonation, I can only assume it has become merged with a human. Possession? Asked Mother Azra. Not quite, Frank said with his unwavering gaze. More like a bargain. But we can use this. If I bring the host to the Grey Realm, the Ifrit will have only two choices: be dragged down or to break its bond. We will have to hope that it is too weak to survive on its own. Mother Azra turned suddenly and pounded her fist on the desk. And what of our lost daughters? They demand vengeance. Hell yeah, not just for tonight, but for Sister Rachel and all the others, agreed Rose. The dark man didn't move. First, there is something we must sort out. Mother Azra is lying about something. Azra took off her reading glasses. Excuse me? When I approached this fortress, something gave me pause. My gifts can be overwhelming at times, but never to the point where I can't focus on what they are telling me. Mother Azra looked down at the dark man sitting in the wingback chair, staring at her over his tented hands. Ha! Then your gifts are lying. The dark man smiled wryly. Ah, they never lie. When I first set my eyes on this place, I sensed no thoughts, no minds, and no whispers. I can read minds, I can sense thoughts, but it was like that part of my gifts had been silenced. Azra was unwavering. My home has many wards. Some are much older than any dark man, but many are forgotten, and the rest no one remembers how they were created. One or two of them are understood, but so much has been lost. Like your trapdoor, he said, raising an eyebrow. Rose rolled her eyes. Oh, dear Lord. Mother Azra was offended. You make light of this place's magic? Rose shook her head. No, Mother, he just comes up with the most inappropriate jokes and uses them at the worst times imaginable. I rather thought that was a good one, said Frank. Rose stifled a laugh. In a pig's eye. Mother Azra was livid. I refuse to be insulted in my own home. Sit down, I'm not done yet. Oh, shit, Rose said, correctly judging the change in the dark man's demeanor. She had seen him turn on a dime from friendly to dangerous too many times. She carefully took a step backwards to create some space between herself and the two warring factions. No matter what charm you place, you cannot hide from me. The line of dark men predates any temple in this world or the next. If I wanted to, I could crack open your mind like an egg. I am the dark man. I see those secrets that hide from my light. Just like how I know your legs are secretly shaking, and no matter how hard I try, I have not heard a single mind here. Not until right before I summoned the blood golem, when they all came rushing back. Ha! Your gifts must not be as potent as you think, Azra said. The dark man continued. Oh no, it's much more interesting than that. You see, the dark gift is not the only way to read minds. Many cultures and many other gifts have found their way to mastering this talent, but the truth is, I still do not sense you, Mother Superior. Rose looked back and forth between the two of them. Okay, you've lost me, she said. You see, dear Rose, there are 3 methods of blocking telepathy. The first and oldest is with drugs. Several compounds work, but only one leaves you with a mild headache instead of serious inebriation. Powder of wormwood and horsebane. The dosing would have had to have been before we arrived here, perhaps in the bazaar. Of course, we wouldn't have needed to ingest it. I'll be damned. The kebabs? See now how she tenses the muscles in her face. See how she prepares to feign ignorance. The dark man intensified his voice. How the hell would I have done that? Azra asked. You see, the fact that I don't know makes it more believable to me. Congratulations, you tricked the dark man. But you see, you made a grave error. You thought my only gift was reading minds. You knew we had passed into the Bosphorus long before we docked today. You see, all my telepathy is back, but you are a void instead of a mind. The only other method of combating a telepathic mind is by having willpower strong enough to resist the reader's gifts. There are those with the gift of stone who have mastered this, but I can still feel their minds even if they do not speak to me. But to become nothing, to cloak your mind, there is only one kind of mind that can do that. You see, you made me doubt my telepathy, so I used my other gifts. I can feel it inside you, like a bright creature coiled and ready to strike. Mother Azra tried to dismiss him. Like all dark men, you lie. Mother, what's he going on about? Asked Rose, suddenly suspicious. Mother Azra softened her tone when directed at Rose. My child, you see how he tries to turn us against one another? Oh, I don't care about any of that manipulative nonsense. Rose can make up her own mind after hearing the whole truth. You poisoned us both to hide the fact that you can hide your mind. It was like all the lights went out in the world, and when they turned back on, you hoped I wouldn't notice that one bulb remained off. Wait, since when has she been telepathic? Asked Rose. The dark man's gaze burned into Mother Ezra. She was born that way. However, many who can read minds never learn how. So many gifts are squandered, but she has learned. Recently, in fact. So can anyone read minds, or just those born with it? Telepathy is a matter of willpower and domination. Not all is known. Not everything can be revealed. But I know her little secret. When did she learn? I wonder, was it Thomas? No, someone else. Who told you that you were dark-minded? Mother Azra scoffed. What? You think I have your foul magic? Rose put her hands up. This is crazy, Frank. She can't do what you do. I've known her since I was a child. The dark man continued. Oh, maybe she could learn all that I know, but she would have to be taught, and someone taught her just enough to awaken her gifts. This is why she can't help but shield her mind, and how she felt me approaching days ago. All I need to do is push, and if I wanted to, I could overwhelm her fledgling gifts. It would be very painful for her, though. Mother Azra threw open the drawer to her desk and produced a revolver, cocking the hammer back. Lies! Disrespect! Foul accusations! I think it's time you left, dark man. Rose was at her wit's end. God damn, Mother, put that down! Let her hold on to her desperation, Rose. It won't help her. She's a heretic and she knows it. You can't hide the dark gift forever. It needs to be nurtured, otherwise it is more dangerous than you know. How long before it takes a life? How long before you get angry and someone has an aneurysm? How long before the sight of a dark room makes your eyes glow so bright you blind everyone near you? I will do no such thing, Azra said, pointing the revolver at the dark man's head. Then why is that gun shaking like a leaf in your hands? Mother, is this true? Rose asked. Mother Azra looked at her. My dear child, I will always love and protect you. Now who's lying, said the dark man. I am done playing with you, demon. Mother Azra was filled with rage. As am I, the dark man said. Mother Azra of Stone, you stand accused of heresy. Speak your truth. How dare you? How do you answer? I am Mother Superior Azra of Stone. My eyes, the dark man leaned forward and slammed his open hand on the desk, causing the two women to jump. Not that truth, the other one. Mother Azra almost pulled the trigger. There is no other truth. Fine. It's the hard way then, he said, sinking back into the wingback chair. Rose was torn. Frank, don't you dare rip her mind. I don't need to. My name is Frank Lumas of the Mines of Madness. I am the Dark Man. As Warden of the Grey Realm and ally to the First God, I command you, who is cursed, to speak your truth. Mother Azra brought her free hand up to her temple like she was trying to hold something inside. No, I am Azra of Stone, and I bear the dark gift. Mother Azra fell back down into her chair in disbelief. What followed was a moment of silence in which the dark man smiled. Typically, it was Rose that was the first to speak. Whoa, what just happened? Mother Azra looked at the dark man, eyes full of loathing. You bastard, she said with a wavering voice. Frank spoke more calmly again. Hierarchy. Those with the gift instinctively fear me, as they do each other so long as there is a disparity between gifts. As such, a natural and frustrating involuntary hierarchy asserts itself. The dark man stands at the top of this hierarchy as the one with the strongest of dark gifts. I can compel those beneath me. So she had to answer whether she wanted to or not, even if it meant her death, said the dark man. Now it means yours, Frank Lumas, Mother Azra said coldly as she pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang out through the labyrinthine corridors of the great temple Lygos. What does the dark man know that the Reverend Mother will kill to hide? Find out next time on The Dark Mat.